of our last meeting, we said that we wanted to have family events that bring the school and greater community together. And in black were our ideas from last time. And then Parent Academy, create a parent-centered PD on topics of choice for parents, and that's what we brainstormed. And then the last one was ELT, which is our extended learning time. How can we more effectively use that time, or what events could we put on based on the ELT time? And the one we came up with was the spelling bee. So what I wanted to do today, I know we don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to brainstorm if we thought these were going to be the best possible events that we could do, and then decide on which ones we're going to concretely move forward. So our next meeting would be planning of the first event that we've agreed upon. Any questions or concerns or input before we start looking at them?
So I have a question.
Sure.
So one of the biggest concerns of our neighborhood association, because we're doing the study and we're just trying to figure out how many students actually attend number 19 school that lives in the neighborhood. Because I understand when we're doing our research, trying to understand, I understand a lot of kids are bused in, right? So a lot of people in the community were saying, parents, people who are engaged, there's really no way that we can really help mentor or engage if those students don't live here, right? We can try to do some things to help them along the way, but ultimately we are really we're hopeful that things kind of go back to community schools where people live in the community and walk to the schools like it used to be when I was coming up and I attended. So the biggest question was, for a lot of members, is how could we be involved if a lot of the students don't really live in the neighborhood? So do you have an idea of how many students live in this neighborhood?
I do. I can pull the exact numbers, but about a third of our population, we have about 400 students,
Okay.
which is a fairly large amount of students, to be honest. And although they live in the immediate area, a lot of them are still dropped off to school. They don't necessarily walk to school. But you brought up a good point, because there is a difference between a neighborhood school and a community school. So a neighborhood school, the way I understood it or understand it to be, is when the students that live in the immediate neighborhood, this is the school that they go to. A community school is a little different in that it can be students who live in the community, it can be residents that live in the community, and partners that come into community or involved in the community that makes it a community school. And just because students live in this community, but they don't go to this school, they're still welcome to come to our school and utilize all that we offer.
Okay. Another question.
Sure.
Swan should be at the table because they're actually the neighborhood also that's touching. So there's Plex and then there's Swan on the side. So trying to reach out to Alexander, who's the executive director, would be good, because that would be the other. And I have his business card, I think.
That would be great. But I'm wondering too, Dorian, if he's involved with Wilson Foundations, because they're also a receivership school, and they have a CET. So I know like a variety of us receivership schools are reaching out to the same partners to be a part of our CET. Okay. If he could fit us into his schedule, yes. I mean, I would love it.
Yeah, I think he would be needed here. We want to make sure we get as many stakeholders as possible, so yes. Because Swan is on this side and we're on this side. So those are the major concerns, is how could we as a neighborhood really support your goals when most of the students don't actually live here. We can't manipulate parents to do things. But versus we have a relationship with people in the community, which is different.
Yeah, and if he can't make it, because I know he's very short on time, Viola from over at the Montgomery Center might be able to get involved.
I'll reach out to him because
Sure, no problem at all. Hi, I apologize for my tardiness. My name is Camille Simmons. I'm the manager of continuous improvement with Rock the Future, and I'm just sitting in for Tanisha Johnson, who would normally be at this meeting.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, any other clarifying questions before we begin to brainstorm around our events, activities?
I guess what has been your current involvement now? Are parents actually coming, or are people coming to your school for events? I mean, do you have a starting point And then the ending point, like, so is it 10 people, is it 100 people, and you want to get 200? I mean, I'm trying to get an idea.
No, thanks for asking. So this is the beginning of my 3rd year. So we've gone from events having as few as like 5 parents to events having up to, like our first event was our annual school picnic at Genesee Valley. And we had about 200 families attend that. So sky's the limit. I mean, my goal would be for every child to be represented at every event that we have here at school. But I know, people have other things going on. But we've really done a good job to capture what events families want to do. So what I really want to move forward with this year is holding on to those popular events like the family picnic, the daddy-daughter dance, student-led conferences, and start to shift what we do for the community at large. So having evening events that the community can come in and utilize and benefit from. And also making the events a little bit more academic for families to help them understand what receivership is, what we're doing academically, and how they can support. Because our events that are well attended are fun events. So how can I shift that a little bit? I don't want to take the fun out of it, but I want to also make sure that our parents are informed and they know what's going on in the classrooms and what their students are expected to be able to do. So I think that's where that second One Parent Academy came from, was how can we also have some events that are benefiting parents and helping them help their students academically. So if you just go back to that first black bullet, and I'm sorry, the notes are just jotted down there. So we brainstormed Thanksgiving event and coat drive, adult play day, and I'm not sure what undetermined was. I think we're trying to come up with 3 things for each one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
The Thanksgiving event I can speak on.
okay,
It's the Friday before Thanksgiving, so it would be the 22nd, Friday, November 22nd. And the meeting is tomorrow at 1 p.m. And Ms. Lee, you are invited to that.
oh, I didn't know that, okay.
Well, because Gwen, I contacted her today and she said, please invite the principal too. I didn't have her email in my email, but I did get a hold of her today. And it's
So
tomorrow at
she'll
1 o'clock if you're free at the church, over on Arnett, where they always have the meeting
That
like
went
that.
last year.
Yeah, that you went last year.
This
So
date,
that's,
I'm sorry, was Friday, November
22nd.
Thank you.
so we're that's a go for us, you know what I mean? And we're starting our meetings tomorrow, so any questions, concerns, or comments, or, we could talk to Gwen tomorrow and make sure that's a go, but I'm sure it is. I'm sure that's no problem,
So what I'm thinking with this event is I shouldn't say what else do we want to add to it, but how do we want to enhance it? How do we want to make sure our parents are aware? Because this event has been going on for a long time in the community.
I think for at least 6 or 7 years before 3, going on 4 for me, and like 3 before I got there, so.
And in all honesty, I don't think our families are heavily represented there, so.
I think it's a lot of people. I just don't even know because there's so
Right.
many.
And I've gone, I've seen several of our families there, but not as many.
As could be there.
Right. So I'm thinking, what do we need to do around?
So this is my first time hearing about it. So maybe get out to some of the organizations. So there is a neighborhoods presidents meeting that we attend, and you could probably get it on the neighborhoods calendar. So a lot of neighborhoods could speak to it at their neighborhood meeting. I guess I was trying to see what date is it on, because I know we do it.
It's a Friday.
Okay, that's good. Okay. So yeah, we could probably get some folks.
Or
to-
what was that called, the what event?
So just basically getting your events on the calendars of the neighborhoods, and they can speak about your event. And so I sit on a group with all the neighborhood presidents, and so it would be good to speak about your event, what you're trying to do, because the information will get out to all the neighborhoods in the city. And I don't know how many kids come from all different places, but at least the neighborhood will be able to disperse the information. That's more
I think it's
important.
a matter of identifying also what means you have used for communication. So what has already taken place, and identifying where there's other opportunities. So also social media, we know, is a huge vehicle, and most of our parents as well as students are definitely present on the social media spectrum, Facebook or what have you. And so if there's a page or an advertisement that can go out, if the students are aware, parents and people will share that way as well.
Is there a Facebook for number 19 school?
Yes, we have Facebook and a Twitter.
Okay.
And we do advertise that quite a bit. We have our open house coming up on Thursday, so that's one of the things that we'll ask a lot of our parents to do is sign up for both. And we also use Seesaw as a school-wide way to communicate.
Because I've noticed as on a personal level, like if you share it from School 19's page, you're probably not seeing as much traction as you would like. But if it's an intentional effort and there's parents that are strategically like, hey, my son's school is doing this is cool. It's that personal connection where you may see more sharing of it. Like you said, you already sound like you're doing that a little bit.
Yeah, you can make it go
But you're
viral.
right, we're not getting our biggest bang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then if you share it, I can share it to a bunch of pages that I'm networked with, have about maybe 5,000 or 10,000 people that it goes. So, there's a bunch of sites that you can share it on.
Okay.
Kind of make it go viral, and that'll help you get the word out.
So are there any other, or do you know of any, like, any of your agencies would like to come and maybe advertise or support at the event or set up a table, or because it's a combination between Flint and our school, so we utilize part of the school and Flint as well. So is there anything you would be willing to contribute or from?
And I know Gwen has some sponsors that come in and set up tables also. She did that last year and again too. She has some, but I don't know what they are. She could probably tell us tomorrow. She has a few
I'm pretty
people
sure
that do that
we can
also.
set up a table and stuff that make sure that people are available. So I know flex wouldn't be a problem. Setting up a table. One of the things that we kind of do in the neighborhood to draw people is whenever we do events to try to get people out. Sometimes we'll do like a gift or a raffle or something. A simple Walmart TV, something cheap or whatever. But that usually draws people out because the draw is they're looking to win this TV, but you still get them there.
Right.
And then you can get the information you need to them, so they'll be interested in maybe. So I don't know. I'm just trying
Well, they're
to figure
getting a
out ways.
coat.
Okay.
It's a coat giveaway. It's
Okay.
It's a coat drive and Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay.
So
So
they're getting food and a coat. So
actually,
that's a lot.
Believe it or not, the food and the coat is going to be. Yeah, if they're going to get a free coat and food, I think you
And that's the 22nd, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
And you found that when you've advertised this, so it sounds like in the past you've done the food and the coats.
And we do get a lot of, we're talking from anywhere from 200 to 800 people. They come.
What's your goal?
Our goal is usually around 400. I
Okay.
think between good 400 easy.
Okay.
And that's without the everybody that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I mean, free coats and free food.
Yeah,
Most of those cities,
it's a
that's-
good turnout. They literally have to do 2 sessions, two
Okay,
1-hour
right.
sessions to
Yeah.
get everybody through and serve everybody. But they won't turn anybody, down. And it's for a community event. It's for everyone.
Wow. Yeah.
And they always do a good job. And they
Are
have a lot of
you,
volunteers.
is the backpack program from SWEM involved with 19? I know John Lang is involved with that with several of the other schools. I've got a meeting with him tonight. I'll see if he's the 19th Ward or...
You said that's a backpack program?
Yeah.
What's in the backpacks?
They
Is it
they
for, like,
send the
food?
kids home with food, yeah, on Fridays.
So, Sheila, I know it is very well attended, but I'm thinking, like, would it be worthwhile for us to put flyers around the immediate neighborhood, or?
I believe Gwen does that, and she
Okay.
has the flyers created, so I don't usually step on her toes. I let her do the flyers, but I still say that, anything that you can give out from the school on your end can't hurt, you know what I mean? If you send the word home with your students and
And a lot of our students are
faculty.
faith-based students too, so I don't know if we saturate any of the churches, because when you look at
It's
certain
all the
neighborhoods,
churches.
they get them as well.
This is basically the churches and the healthcare organizations,
Yeah.
they all come together and do this. And they've been doing it.
Okay, so it sounds like that's the event that we're gonna push for the fall.
Yes, I would say definitely, hey, we can try and this year and see what happens, or we pick something else, but it's built in, it's good to go, it's well attended already, and, we just gotta get more of your
So how can
kids in
we,
there.
well, we can talk about this offline, but I'm just curious to see, like, is there a sign-in sheet? Is there, like, how will we?
There is not a sign-in sheet, but, we could probably, if it's, you
I
wanna
mean,
know
even
about
something-
your kids.
Right, so I just wanna know, are you a 19 school family?
Mhm.
Just put a check mark
Right, we could, you know what I mean, something like that.
or
you know.
tally if they don't wanna disclose who they are. Okay. Anything else?
Or maybe, like you said, you wanted to have like, your teachers have a table or something, or maybe we could have a teacher up front that can check in, that knows the students or something like that, you know what I mean? That could be responsible for just,
That's a good idea.
you know what I mean, keeping track of your 19 people.
Yep, that's a good idea.
So in the past, you really don't know who you just.
No, in the
people show
past,
up.
it's a free-for-all. Anybody comes in, everybody comes, if they want a coat, they can get a coat. If they want food, they have food. And,
Okay.
it's
So you don't know whether.
So, I mean, I was saying, like, the 2 years I've gone, it has been packed, but, I mean, I could really count on, like, one or two hands how many of our families I saw.
Right.
And I'm curious about how many neighborhood people, I mean, and that's just me being curious in terms of us becoming a community school. I just want some kind of stats on
Right. You're trying
who's
to.
coming,
you know, how
because it's
focus
open
on the
to
community. Yeah.
Greater Rochester, which is awesome.
right.
Right. And I'm trying to figure out, we do a door hanger campaign, right? So door hangers, we pay like 160, 4,000, and we do door hangers, and we do a plex, and we draw people in from the door hangers. But that's for a specific area, which is what you're saying. You want to figure out how can you engage
This area.
this area.
Well, even if you send out like a little ticket before they go home that
That's what I was
day or
just
something, and the kids say, "Oh, bring the ticket to the dinner, and
There you
we'll
go.
give you
Exactly.
crayons or something."
There you go.
Exactly.
That's
So
Or,
I was
uh,
just gonna say, we need
you
a
know.
value add for the students. Like, if for whatever reason this has been advertised and you haven't really gotten the kids there or the families there too much yet, I feel like we need to add something that's gonna like directly
a reason.
motivate them to come.
Or you know what we could do too? There's another option. We have what's the listen? I should know this. The food truck there for the vegetables.
They give them
Food link?
5.
Food Link, if you give them like a $5 coupon, we do that. Miss Lee or Gwen does that. Like she gives out like the first people that come in, like a bag of 25, and they can go and get the vegetables and stuff on the food truck. And that's, I mean, that probably would be minimal, even to get, to hand out $5 tokens or something from the public market. And you can even get those ahead of time, you know what I mean, the public market, and say, hey, look, if your family comes, boom, you can take this $5, go out to the food truck, get some vegetables, have dinner, get a coat, come on.
Yeah.
So the food link food truck is there also. So that's something you can incorporate too. And that's good for the families, that's a reason to bring, you know what I mean, that's fresh vegetables.
All right, sounds like a plan. So what are we thinking in terms of, we want to do the parent academy? Really struggling with how to engage parents to have them have their own community, even without their children necessarily being directly involved. So meaning we would provide childcare, but what types of activities, or how do we go about finding out which types of activities parents would want to engage in?
That's your guys' area. But we could recreation could supply the kids could come down while their parents are having their little training at the rec and hang out. So that would be like free babysitting, but
What's your parents' demographic? I mean, what's the age? Is it anywhere from, what's like 40, I mean, all over the place?
All over the place. I mean, because we have grandparents parenting.
Okay.
So do we want to start looking at the demographics of who's at home with students? I mean, because we've tried, I'm gonna be honest, we've tried surveys and we haven't gotten a lot of feedback, but we've taken that feedback and we've tried to implement. But then from that small population, it's not drawing in enough parents. Do we start with something like, I don't know, cooking or?
I feel like you start with the activities. You said garner the biggest outcomes. You said there's certain things that happen that are fun-filled activities, and they tend to show up in numbers for that.
Right.
And using those opportunities without really messing up the fun that they're having, but finding opportunities to slowly maybe integrate information gathering at those events, carving out a little time, like towards the middle, somewhere they have to be there for a certain amount of time, but where they get and. So they're getting a little learning, but they're also getting that fun engagement where you don't lose them.
So providing childcare, and so are you thinking add on to the events that we already have where we sort of pull them aside and say, okay, now the parents are going to do this and that, and the kids are
Somehow you could strategic. I don't know how that would look because I don't know enough about those events, but yeah, something of that nature.
So I'm willing to go out on a limb and try it this week. So we have open house this week, and we're doing it differently in that it's going to be embedded into the school day. So it's going to happen from 3:30 to 5, which is a half hour after we dismiss. And it was because a lot of parents were saying, well, listen, I'm not going to be able to come back because my child doesn't get home until 5:30 or 6, and then to come back for a half hour, I'm out. I'm not going to do that. So I wanted to have a parent piece for this event, only because the teachers will be here, the students can still be in class. If you have littles, I can arrange for some kind of childcare for littles, but then I can pull parents together, like in the library or someplace, and just go through at least our school data and answer any questions that they have just burning about anything that's going on or any concerns. And then I don't know, maybe I can have them do a survey there since I have them
And the open house is what day?
this Thursday.
Yeah, maybe at the open house, maybe you can have something like where if the parent checks in or something and have like the event on it, like have the Thanksgiving thing on there and then put like a couple extra things saying, if you could have this or this, what would you choose? If you could have this or this, what would you choose? That's 3 little things they gotta answer, circle something or while they're there, get them to say, oh, if I hit, because that's a good way they're already there.
And then you can also have the others, so if there's something they think of and they're like, no, I don't like any of these, I wanted to do this, they still have an opportunity to just write that
Yeah, and then
in.
just put other, and then that's a way of letting them know about the Thanksgiving event coming up also.
I was gonna say, you can also draw people in by giving them a little knowledge on something. So, for example, I know a lot of people who will like to own a home, or so you can kind of tie in something that benefits. Okay, while they're doing this, going there, if their kids are doing something, here's a little nugget. If you're interested in buying a home, these are some programs that can help you get into purchasing a home. Because we found out it's about information. People don't have the information to make really educated decisions. So you may have a bunch of parents who they say, you know what, I'm gonna make sure I make it to that school meeting because whether it be house taxes, whether it be education, what if I want to go back to school, hard time with math, financing, using a checkbook, paying your bills, so use it as a and then you offer food, right? So you may have subs or something. So their kids are there, you're feeding them. So it's kind of a win-win for you because you come in, you get them involved. They're learning a little something, and now they walk out saying, you know what, this school is actually trying to help educate us a little bit too. So now the mom does well. She may own a house, and I'm just trying to figure out how
So
can
under
you
the
help.
parent academy
Yeah.
piece, that's what they were getting, that's the value add to the parent academy, yeah.
Okay.
That's really nice, yeah.
Because that's the thing that when I speak to people, they say, hey, Dorian, we want to get a house, but we don't understand how to get a house. What does it take? There's programs out here where we can get a house, and they don't know the information, and then you can kind of tie in. This is what we can apply. We can tie in different organizations and give them 30 minutes or 15 minutes to come in and possibly help these people. So you're actually helping the parents and the kids, That's just a thought.
No, I love it, and this is what I need, so this is what I need.
Yeah.
All right, so the last piece is ELT. So ELT is our extended learning time, so it's a combination of 2 days of clubs, 3 days of academics, 1 day of advisory for middle school. So right now, I mean, we are just trying to figure it out, to be quite honest. Sheila has been great helping us out with ELT and Flint Street, and that partnership is growing. But now we want to talk about what could we give back to the community, or what could we offer the community, or both. So I'm starting to think like middle school can work on a project where they're learning about famous African Americans that lived in this community, like Dr. Charles T. Lunsford, and go out into the community, do some research, bring it back, put on some kind of showcase where the community can come in and see what they're learning. I'm just looking for ideas and or support around how we can utilize that extra hour in the school day so that students are giving back to the community.
So students are giving back in the community.
Or the community can be coming in,
Right.
or a combination of both. But I mean, right now, like
And
I
you're-
said, it's not a fantastic program.
Yeah.
I'm kind of embarrassed about it because we're just starting, and we found out kind of late into the game that we're going to be in ELT school. So we're just trying to put some systems in place.
And you said it's only 1 hour from 4 to.
From 3:30 to 4:30
Okay.
each day.
Okay.
So according to our SIG, being an ELT school, they want us to have some kind of showcase twice a year. And I want it to be meaningful. I don't want to just do a showcase because our SIG grant says we have to do a showcase. How can we really tie it into the community and the fact that we're a community school too?
So I feel like this kind of ties into a conversation that you, me, Aria, and Alicia were starting to have last year about community service projects. And Alicia was really interested in doing that, but it was just something that we were kind of like not sure where we start. And then at the very end of the year, Aria had, and I can find it and bring it back again, but information about really like the kind of like the best practice ways to go about those projects, which really involves like letting the students pick what matters to them. And like there's a whole process to like really like letting the students do the work, decide what they want to do, decide what those next steps would look like. And then you really are just kind of the ones guiding them through it. So I almost wonder if there's something to be said for us not coming up with all the ideas, but letting that hour be a time for them to work through, discuss, decide what they want to do, then work on it, and then their results and what that could be. So you could use that time, I don't know exactly what your rules are as far as like, you know, on-site, off-site, whatever. So if that's something that you do in the school and the community comes in, if that's they choose to do an hour of volunteering out in the community, you can kind of like play with it from there, and then certainly do a showcase to say, you know, this is what we've done over the last 2-3 months or however you decide to do
Take
it.
pictures,
But
make a little video.
absolutely, but I feel like that's a really flexible opportunity where you could really kind of let the students have that say, which is when it comes to like the research on that, like when it mattered and what kids really like took out of it, they took things from it because they
chose
did it. It
Right,
was
they
their
wanted it.
initiative. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like a community service project that was handed to them. It was like they had to decide what was important, and they had to take that initiative and that responsibility, and that's like really empowering. So
I think that's a great idea.
yeah.
Have you all ever done, when we talk about student voice, capture their voice with their imagined Rochester? That type of voice, like how they actually see their community? Have we done anything like that?
No, we have not.
Imagined, you know, what would this is what I see in my community now, and if I were to imagine my alternate reality, my community at its best, this is what I would see, you know, just that free thinking opportunity, that critical thinking is getting embedded in there, but I just feel like there's an opportunity for students to really share their unique voices in a way that is, it could still be structured, but allows them to really dig. So I don't know what that activity would look like exactly, but.
Do you usually have the students come in, or do you go out to various places in the neighborhood?
Well, right now we have not gone out, so what we've done so far is that we did a survey and students came up with different clubs they would like to have. And then we tried to match those wants with teacher expertise or staff expertise to try and have those clubs open. So we have 10 clubs going currently. The most popular one by far is Flint Street with our middle school boys, which is great. But there's also things like chess club, there's peacemakers, there's board games, there's poetry slam, there's art, there's mindfulness. So there are a lot of different clubs that are going now. But that's, I mean, when I say we're at the entry level of this, like right there at the entry level, like this is our second week.
You've got the Gandhi Institute, which is just nearby here, that they might be interested in doing something, at least for one or two events.
So they're doing two. One person from Gandhi, Alex is running chess club, and then Matt is running peacemakers or change makers.
Great.
So they're definitely on board.
And then you have a group going to rock music over at Gant too, I believe.
Yeah, that hasn't started yet, but
This
they
Wednesday,
will.
I think.
Yep, they will start
Because
soon.
we have to drive them.
Oh, you're the transportation. Thank you, Sheila. We were trying to iron that out. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Guess who's ironing it out?
Thank you. We appreciate you. So, we don't have to decide on this now, but
I think it's a good idea to get the students' idea of what they want to. Yeah, that's good.
so we can do another survey, and especially at middle school, 6 through 8, and we can do a little bit of teaching through social studies about what community service projects are, what they look like, and start having them brainstorm some ideas and then capture it on an actual Google Form survey and see what they're interested in. And then the part that's probably most challenging for me is the structure piece, like trying to organize who's going to support, what people with expertise are going to be willing to come in and support student learning, thinking, and implementation too, of whatever it is they want to do.
I'm even wondering too, I don't know what the format is and how many grade levels that would cover and everything, but even maybe beyond a Google form, if there's a way to have any kind of set groups and really let them have the conversation, you know what I mean, almost come to a consensus rather than just a survey where they're this is what we found out that you seemed interested in, you know what I mean, but if they feel like they had a conversation and they made the decision.
So you're saying have a group that already is stipulated to say it's a community project group.
Yeah.
And then you're going to come into that group and you're going to decide the project you're going to work on.
I think
that kind
so.
of a thing.
I think so. Or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
That's kind of like how our youth voice one vision is.
Yeah.
Where they come in and decide what their vision is and what their
Yeah.
voice is, and then they decide.
Because I think that that's a really important piece. The fact that they see that, they made the choice. That it was their conversation, their brainstorming, their discussion, and that they, worked through, chewed through that, and came to something
That's
versus.
the biggest or easiest way to get buy-in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I think, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're a little over, so thank you for being patient. Just to reflect quickly, and I will clean up these notes, is that we are going to move forward with the Thanksgiving event, which is already in place in the Coat Drive, and that's on November 22nd. So if your community or agency would love to come and support that, we would love to have support. We're going to utilize the things that we have here, so we can support the raffle, we can support the social media, we can support the sending home a ticket that can be redeemed for something at the door, we can support the teacher table. And then I just want to make sure at the teacher table we're capturing how many of our families or community members are actually attending the event. And then moving on toward the Parent Academy, I will use this Thursday as an opportunity to try and get some more information around what parents might like or want to see in school or be interested in attending. And ELT, I think this is the one that needs to be fleshed out probably the most, is trying to figure out a way so that students have a clear, consistent voice in what they do as part of their community service projects.
I can get some recommendations from Aria on that, because I know that that's something that she has a fair amount of knowledge on. And just kind of where to start on that.
So the next meeting will be on the 21st, and I'll have this all cleaned up. And I think we would have had, actually one event would have happened, so the open house would have happened, and then the Thanksgiving one will happen the next day after. No, that's November, sorry.
It's November.
Sorry.
Slow down.
Sorry.
Not yet.
Sorry.
It's Halloween.
But we can still share out or maybe flush out a little bit more at that meeting, what the next thing will look like. Any closing remarks or anything you want to add before we wrap up for today?
This Thursday at the open house, when you're trying to get information, maybe like once you have them separated, you were asking like, do I give them a survey then? And it might be easiest, and you might get the best, like maybe even a 100% response rate. If like once you get them in the room, if you have a half sheet, don't even ask their name, don't ask any of that, just ask those things that like he listed off on, like the housing, parenting, school financing, all those things, and then hand them out to people, and then literally just go around with a basket before you close. And just like try to get them back right there. Because then it's literally like you circle, you drop it in the thing. It's not like any kind of commitment. There's no personal information, but you know that you're walking away. You're not waiting for them to like send it back or turn it in or drop it off or anything like that.
Yeah, or you're gonna have a basket for them to drop it in when they go out the door.
Yeah, but then you still gotta trust them to do that.
You're right.
I would walk
Walk
I'm telling you.
You got this?
I would just
Have
pass it
extra
around.
pens and pencil. Oh, here's a sheet.
And
in
one
case you
thing,
need
one thing that actually worked well at the picnic, because we tried to determine what time we would have the open house, was that we had a teacher at the door, so when everyone came into the picnic, she just had on a piece of chart paper which
And she
times
just
work
marked.
best for you. And she just had the times, and then she just tallied. What time worked best for you? That one? She just tallied right there
Yes.
for them. All they do was just verbalize
Yeah.
what they wanted, and she tallied.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Amanda. We
Yeah.
gotta get like,
Yeah.
either do that chart again or something immediate,
Yeah.
quick, fast.
Like we need to be able to have control of getting the response. Once we like hand it off to them, then it's like, and maybe we'll get it back, but we need to like be able to get that data like immediately.
Just have them do, like you said, that's smart. Just have them circle it right there and
Just put it right
get
in.
it, yeah, put it right there, you got it. It's done. You don't even need the name.
And have a candy bowl right
Yeah.
They do the survey, take a piece of candy.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're all set.
Right.
Thank you so
Okay, great.
much.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
invite.